again, let's move to Philadelphia because there's a coaching change there that is just as important as the Vancouver Canucks across the border. So Alain, Adamo, say it for me.
Vigneault.
Vigneault
Alain
fired.
Vigneault.
Alain Vigneault fired this morning and will be replaced by intern head coach Mike Yeo. This comes in light of a 7-1 blowout. Horrible, horrible blowout on home soil to the Lightning yesterday, amidst an 8-game losing skid in which the team has been outscored 37-13. So last year was a big defensive problem. Defense couldn't, like, pucks were just constantly flying in the back of their net. I remember there was two games back to back where they surrendered almost more than 8 goals. That's how bad it was. Carter Hart was ridiculously bad, and it's no different this season. Do the problems in Philly run deeper than the bench? Management, and we were talking about this on the pre-show, me and you, Jared. Management has to be brought into question here because it was such a positive offseason. They were graded so high on so many people's lists. They brought in pieces that were so positive, improved them on paper, but it's producing this. Like, it's nothing that we sort of thought we'd see. Evan, man, just take it away. You want it so much.
I disagree with you. I don't think it has anything to do with management. It has everything to do with the players, because this has been a common theme in Philadelphia where they're firing coaches. And you got to look at the roster. It hasn't really switched over time. And, there's been talks about Claude Giroux getting traded. I think that's something that could possibly happen. I think it would be horrible for the franchise because that's your leader and that's your voice in the locker room. And, but I would say that one of the questionable moves that they made that hasn't worked out in their favor was trading Jakub Voracek for Cam Atkinson 1-for-1. Because when you look at the stats, Jakub Voracek, no surprise, has 19 assists in 23 games with Columbus, and Cam Atkinson has 8 goals in 22 games with the Philadelphia Flyers. So it's not a management. Like, you think that trade would – I was very shocked by the move because I didn't think Jakub Voracek was hurting the team in any way. I thought he was keeping them afloat. He was a great power play guy, kind of like a David Krejci on the power play, just really good at finding that open man. And look, I think they need to trade Claude Giroux now that I'm thinking of it, because you need something that's going to shock the franchise, because nothing is going right for them. They made it to the Cup final a decade and so long ago, but since then they haven't really had any playoff success. And the one thing, they've just been letting guys go rather than bringing new guys in. They let Mike Richards and Jeff Carter go, and they ended up winning Stanley Cups in LA. And then you let Voracek go, and the success he's continuing to have. And look, the Travis Konechny is a guy that I'm thinking of because he had a great year 2 years ago, but he's kind of hasn't been the same player since. So now I'm starting to view that as a fluke season for him. Not like a fluke season, but just a year where he was extremely hot, and now he's not. And I don't like the guys they have up the middle. Nolan Patrick wasn't a great draft pick, and you look at the guys that were picked behind him, guys like Nick Suzuki was a draft pick that went after Nolan Patrick. They would love to have him as a second center behind Claude Giroux. That would definitely be a lot better. This might sound crazy. I think it's a time for a rebuild. I didn't like the Carter Hart signing. I think it was way too much commitment for a goalie that wasn't great last year. They just got pumped 7-4 against the Colorado Avalanche. I think it is time for a rebuild and similar to Jack Eichel, look, you're going to get the most assets for Claude Giroux. I think it's time to trade him because they're not getting any younger and they're not getting any greater. They're not a good team right now, and their goaltending is horrible, to say the least. You've Martin Jones and Carter Hart.
There's so much wrong.
I think it's time for a rebuild, and similar to Buffalo, I think it's time to trade Claude Giroux. You could definitely get a first-round pick for him if you're targeting draft capital, which I think you should be, especially in a rebuild. I think at this point, there's no point in getting name brand players on your team. I think you would rather take 2 first-round picks than another name brand player. So that's where I stand on it. I'm tired of them firing head coaches. because it doesn't matter. Like, it's not changing anything.
No, it's the same record
Thank
they
you.
play. No problem. It was a great spiel. No, it's the same record that they play every single year. Like there's nothing going well for them right now. There hasn't ever really been stuff going well for them. Even when they made it to that Stanley Cup, Jesus, the playoffs a couple of years ago, and got the floor wiped with them. Like there's nothing really that wows me about this team. And I really thought it would be that the opposite of that when they brought in so many guys in the offseason. Like, Evan, I want to ask you just briefly, yes or no. Did you think the offseason was was it a good offseason that they had? Like, did they do everything they had to do, or was it a step
No,
backwards?
I think when we did I don't know,
I
I
don't
don't even remember
remember.
what my
That's
draft,
why.
I don't remember what my offseason ranking was, but I'm going to say it was an F because I didn't think giving Carter, I don't know, Jared, yeah, whatever.
He's giving you the
It
crazy
wasn't
eye.
good at all. And it's evident right now. Like when you fire your coaches and stuff, like it doesn't mean your team's doing well. You don't see Tampa firing John Cooper. And I also just thought the dollars that they gave Carter Hart and also just the commitment that they gave, I don't think that was really warranted. I think they were hoping that last season would have been just like, COVID year, not a lot,
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
a lot's happening all at once. And especially as a goaltender where your mindset is just so much different than of a player. Like it's just, you didn't know what was going on. I don't know. Like, I know they brought in Ryan Ellis, but
He doesn't even play.
look, I love Ryan Ellis. I think the reason why he was such a great offensive defender
Roman
was
Yossi.
his deep partner, and he could pass it to Yossi. And then, like, if you notice, like Ryan Ellis was getting a lot of secondary assists. Like he was getting a lot of hockey assists. He wasn't getting the primary assist. He wasn't getting the goal. So I just don't think it worked out as well as they. Or crap, who was it? Ristolainen.
Mm-hmm. He's
Like
been
he just scored his
treacherous.
first.
Yeah.
Like, look, that's why I give them an F because Ristolainen isn't even a great offensive defenseman. Like he's not even. He's a guy bonus. Like that's not a good thing if you're trying to bring someone in. So that's why I think it's an F.
Does it run deep? Does the thing run deeper? The problems run deeper than the coach now? Is it now management, or is it just strictly the coaching style on these players?
I don't know.
Like
I think
what
it's
came
just
first, the chicken or the egg here?
well, look, it's just their drafting. Like I like the drafting. Like Nolan Patrick, obviously he was great coming out of juniors, and everyone even thought that he could have been over Nico Hischier. And in retrospect, I don't think anyone predicted Nick Suzuki to be a number one center by year 3. Like I definitely thought that would have taken more time for him to develop. I think it's really time to throw in the towel here. If they do the playoffs, which I don't think they will, they're gonna get swept. And like I say, like if you're gonna suck, then just suck. Like sell to your fans, like, look, we've had a great record. They made the playoffs, so there's nothing fans can complain about. But I think it's time to sell your fans the idea. Claude Giroux's like what 30 something. Like Carter Hart hasn't been. He's been digressing rather than getting better. So yeah, I think it's just time to throw in the towel and stands that idea.
I'll turn it over to you guys. I mean, I don't know how much more you want to say. I think Evan just covered literally every single sector of the Philadelphia Flyers. But what do you guys make of not just the coaching change, how necessary it is, but what has happened with this franchise? Like it was, I was gonna, I'll say, I don't know, I'm gonna say I was a sucker for it, but a lot of people, including myself, believe that they made decent strides. And because there was a lot of holes to fill. That COVID year was really bad. One of the worst ones I've ever seen in my life. There was so many holes to fill, so many uncertainties. And they brought in guys who at the time really looked like they could possibly take the next step with this team. It's been nothing but the case. So many problems. Defense is a problem. Goaltending. I've never was a big fan of Carter Hart. And last year, I didn't think it was just a write-off. I knew it was something that was going to spill in. I hated when he got the money, like you said, Evan. But I don't know. What do you guys make of the changes in Philly and what's just going wrong down in the city of brotherly love?
I'm gonna say I completely agree with Evan in the sense that it's on the players right now because I do think they are an at least somewhat talented team. I think they have good talent there. But the one area I differ in is I don't think it's time to completely begin a rebuild. I'm more on the mindset of a retool is the better solution, because I think they have enough talent there that their course of action can be taking their talent and flipping it for new talent. I think completely taking that talent and selling it for draft picks and whatever would completely crumble the team. And as much as, yes, it could maybe pay off in 5 or 10 years from now, I think they have enough talent there that they could be a few changes away from being competitive sooner than that. So I'd say a retool is the best course of action, in my opinion. But yeah, right now it just seems like a team that I can't exactly pinpoint exactly what's going on. I think goaltending is a huge factor. But in general, just they have talent there. They were my pick to be one of the top teams in the Metro. I really liked their team going into the season, but just everything's gone wrong there. The players aren't playing like we expect them to be. Their goaltending is slacking, and just nothing's working out. I think firing their coach was the right move, because when you lose 8 in a row, you have to do something to kind of motivate them. And again, they just lost tonight 7-5. So something's wrong with the team right now, how they're playing. I think they have the talent, but it's completely not working. The one thing I'm going to say about what Evan was saying, though, I think giving them an F on their offseason is a very recency bias kind of thing. That's very much grading them based on how they've been in the season. I think if you were to talk about this back in September, I think there's no way anyone was giving them an F. Yes, you could say, oh, maybe it wasn't an A. You could poke holes in the moves they made.
I think I gave them a C- or something. It's still I didn't give them
Yeah, and I think that was fair. I think I probably gave them a B- is what I'm thinking. I gave them
I think you did.
Yeah, I'm just saying now, turning around and being looking back only a few months later, it was completely an F. They failed, whatever. Yes, it hasn't worked out. So you could say it's failed to work out right now. But to say in general, back in September, I would have given them an F, that isn't true. They made moves that at the time they thought would lead to their success, and they convinced a lot of people, me being one of them. I was very convinced in this Philadelphia Flyers team. I think they gathered enough talent. I really liked their offense. I think their defense, while it wasn't stellar, it's definitely solid. I don't hate their defense looking at it right now on Daily Faceoff. They have, in my opinion, a fairly talented team. I don't think they should be nearly as bad as they've been so far. But whether it be something in management, whether it be the biggest thing, which I think is that it's something to do with the players, just nothing's gone right with that Philadelphia Flyers team. The players don't seem like – I don't even want to say, oh, it doesn't look like they've bought in. But, something's clearly wrong in that dressing room. I don't know exactly what it is, but they need to figure it out fast, because – as much as the season isn't done and the hope is that they could find a way to turn it around, at this point, it's December. They're in arguably the hardest division. The argument with Vancouver is that because they're in the Pacific, there's the season isn't over. But when you're in the Metropolitan Division, you're going to really need to see Philadelphia turn into an absolute super team if you want to see them become remotely successful. Because right now, it seems like the way they started the season, yes, there's a long season still to go. But at this point, we're in December, and they need to start picking their shit up.
Now, Damo, I'm going to turn over to you. I said last segment, last pick is always the worst one, but I think this one you proved quite vital, because are you on team rebuild or team retool? I think we're in a bit of a deadlock here. I say retool. Jared's spoken retool. Evan said rebuild. However, he did back it with pretty substantial, I can see where you're going with this. I want to see if you climb the ladder that same way.
I'm team fucking pick one, because this team screams right now.
You need to pick a side.
Last segment? No. You remember we were talking about last segment about how, you don't want to be in the twilight zone?
Yep.
That's what this team screams. They scream mediocre. And I'm going to lean towards the retool side, just because you have a young superstar goalie. And
superstar's a stretch.
He's literally going to make a team. Potential superstar goalie. That's what I meant to say. He's not a superstar, but I think he definitely has the potential to be a superstar. And
he shows signs. Sometimes.
He's been pretty good this year too.
Yeah, he's great at passing. You see that assist to Matthew Joseph.
That was poor. But still, he's like a 911 save percentage on Ristolainen's defense. I think a retool is probably necessary, just because they have talent right now. I wouldn't mind seeing them move some of their young guys. I know they have like Cam York. They have another young forward. I forget his name, but they have a couple prospects. Maybe if they want to whip something out, go buy someone. Like they prove they can make the playoffs, but they're just not playing it right now, which is why I think, hiring Alain Vigneault, who's a guy who's notably a pretty tough coach. I remember his time in the Rangers, he used to flip his shit. So maybe this could be the spark under their asses that, get it together.
This is where I disagree with the whole retool thing, because the only way, like, you're not trading Cam York. His value's way too high, and the potential for him to have a 12-year, 13-year NHL career is very high as well. The Flyers are as close to the playoffs as you two think they are, or I don't know, Mario, what your stance on is either. I don't think they're as close to the playoffs as, and it's also, regardless of the Metropolitan, the NHL season's back where every team's playing everyone. So it's not like anyone's schedule is as difficult. Like, you're playing all other 31 NHL teams, and the separation between where the Flyers are now and where the second wildcard team is also 7 points. So it's even less than Vancouver. I just don't think, like, the moment you say goaltending's an issue, should gas any hope of you continuing throughout like the entire 82 or a quarter through the season, that your goaltending's an issue. It's very hard to replace goaltending without replacing what you're hoping to eventually keep. Like, there are not a lot of teams out there are willing to trade their goalies. Like, that's something, like, goalie's the one position where you either need to draft or hope free agency. Like, it's hard to trade for a goalie while keeping what you want to keep. And I disagree trading Cam York, because I think he has the potential to be their next number one defenseman in 2 to 3 years. The offensive upside with him is a lot higher than Ristolainen's is. And we've seen that through his time at the NTDP. And the reason why I said Claude Giroux is because he's 33, and it's very similar to what's going on in LA right now, where Doughty and Kopitar are 35 years old. I think they should trade them. Like, and I'm the biggest, like, I fucking named my dog Kopi. Like, I'm the biggest Kopitar fan ever. I think they need to trade them, because by the time guys like I know we're getting sidetracked, but by the time guys like Byfield, Brant Clark, Tyler Madden, Alex Turcotte, by the time they develop, Kopitar is going to be retired, and Drew Doughty is going to be shortly following him. So I don't think, like, I think they need to follow in that direction where you realize you have the young talent. You just need to trade it.
And I mean,
old guys.
This is the situation. Like, it's a weird topic, because I reside in retool, because I think if you rebuild, you're just erasing everything you just did that last offseason. They traded a bunch of draft picks for, like, even that Ristolainen one. I disagree with that. I thought it was a really garbage trade when I saw it. You're trading for Ristolainen, and like, for all those picks, you can't go back. You can't just backtrack with that. Evan, I do agree, however, and this is what I'm trying to figure out in my mind. Where does the value lie for Claude Giroux? Like, I think he should most definitely be flipped. He's getting too old. I think he's outlived his tenure in Philly. Everyone gets he's the leader. Everyone gets that, but you could move on from a leader and still be a decent team. And I do think.
Sorry, go.
No.
I've been talking a lot. You go.
No. That's like what I want to see them trade. I think we're on the same page with this. I want to see them get rid of Claude Giroux. I don't think he serves a purpose anymore on this team. With the direction that this group is going, I don't see him being still in the mix in one. I'll go as close as 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. I don't see him being in there.
Yeah, I just want to make this brief before we go to Florida. The issue with Claude Giroux is, one, he has a no-move clause, so he needs to waive that. He needs to waive that in order to get traded. And if he does, I believe he would want to go to a contender just because of age, and he hasn't hoisted Lord Stanley yet. And then in terms of assets of what gets returned, it's all on what obviously, like, what the team, like, whoever he gets traded to wants, but also, like, what Philly is eyeing, and I feel like Philly's eyeing draft capital
I was about to
for
say
young prospects.
I was about to say that. Yeah, it's what Philly wants.
But I don't know what I don't know what team he would go to that's a contender that has the cap space and would make like it's hard to find a team
that wants Claude Giroux. Like, what is he really?
No, everyone wants, like, Claude Giroux is a fantastic
player. He's a leader.
It's just a matter of where the hell does he go that like Vegas he can't, Colorado he can't, Boston no way
there is this one team from Ontario where he's from. I don't know. he has what we want.
He pushed the envelope.
He's making I was going as we speak. He is a unrestricted free agent next year, so it would be a rental.
If he's a UFA next year, then he's gone. Then never mind. Oh well, that's even better than trade him now.
Well, yeah, Jared. Yeah,
Toronto.
I think we're on to something.
But
Brandon Pridham knows what the fuck he's doing.
But if you're the Leafs, then who do you trade?
Oh, who cares?
Dustin Hall and a 7th round pick. The trade is 1-for-1.
I honestly don't know, but if you're able
to trade
Claude
Giroux, then one of your core 4 has to go.
False. There's salary retention.
I don't know, but that's
top 4 for Claude Giroux.
No, I'd never do that. No. I'd move like probably
Kerfoot.
But if you're the Leafs,
Kerfoot probably is the guy.
But if you're the Leafs and you want them to retain salary, to retain at least 70%.
Well, you can only retain 50%. So
I don't even know if the Flyers would do that, considering then the Leafs have to offer more.
If the Flyers are still shit and they've retained like half,
but then the Leafs have to offer more because like if
who cares? Give them a first, Kerfoot a first, and like I don't want to say Amarov.
I don't know if they do Kerfoot in a first for.
No, and like a prospect, because if they still suck and they want to go the rebuilding route, we have like a shit ton of prospects that eventually I think we need to start moving these prospects. I would do it. Like Kerfoot a first, and like who's one of our like B.
Better not be Matthew Nyes. I'll say that. Have you guys seen this kid? He's been unbelievable.
I don't think
say Toronto like makes sense. That's giving up a piece of your core 4 because like.
Why would we give up a piece of our core 4 for our rental though? Who's 34?
But here's so you're gonna. But this is the same issue with Nick Foligno, where you gave up a first-round pick and then you couldn't even re-sign him.
Like, but Nick Foligno we knew sucked. Claude Giroux we knew is good.
Here's the issue though. But if you're giving up a first-round pick for a rental, like then it doesn't make sense.
Giroux drives a harder bargain.
Guys, Tampa fucking paid a first for Barclay Goodrow. They paid a first for Blake Coleman.
Okay, but that's different though, because Barclay Goodrow was with the team longer.
He's a 4th liner. Doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
You have to pay. You pay for it.
He brings so much.
We can't resign him? Who said we can't resign Giroux?
The salary cap. That's the issue. You can't have
the cap goes up. You move Richie and thing. You could sign it if you want. What 5?
I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of them just investing all in offense and then
we're totally speaking hypothetical. Too.
No, this is all. It's
not going to happen. It's not happening.
Like if it does, like the Leafs, once the cap goes up, they need to fucking spend on defense.
Oh, they have much more pressing issues to deal with right now.
And get a goalie that isn't a glass jar, bro.
Also true. Mrazek.
He's got to go. Was Jared giving me that face for it? That dude's played 1.5.
No. I initially when he said get a goaltender, I thought you were talking about Campbell, and I was ready to flip. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, oh, never mind. You're talking about Mrazek. That is a valid point.
We have a backup.
Boy, Mario heard me 100 times. Longevity, durability.
Durability will be a concern for this year. It's memorized in my head. But again, right. I think, we're just looking at hypotheticals here. I think we could have a full other discussion on a full other episode of hypotheticals. But the one hypothetical that isn't really that much of a fantasy is that Philly's got to get their stuff together. They got to pick a side, like Adamo said. I think that's first and foremost. I think this coaching change is going to show which side of the tracks you're going to lie on. Do you want to rebuild? Do you want to retool? And do you want to sit in that twilight zone? I love the term because I love watching the twilight zone. But if you want to sit there, then I think rebuilding is the right route for you. If you want to go for it, and the Metro is a tight division. It's not like Vancouver here. Vancouver has a lot more accessibility with their firings and all that stuff. Philly's got to act fast. I thought I said Vancouver had to act fast. Things that start clicking now, right now, for the Philadelphia Flyers, because the Metro moves fast. Let's see if they keep up with the pace.